Activision Blizzard and dogshit monetization practices. Name a more iconic duo. This subject has been beaten to absolute death over the last month since Overwatch 2's release, or actually even since Overwatch 1's release back in 2016, and has only gotten more intense since the launch of the Wrath of the Bride event. And I'm fully on board with kicking this dead horse until Blizzard gets its act together and picks it up, because this sort of behavior is bad for customers, it's bad for the industry, and honestly kind of bad for the company. And to me, sends a really concerning message about Blizzard's lack of faith in Overwatch 2's longevity. So, let's talk about how capitalism is fucking up Overwatch 2 and why it's important to recognize this problem for what it is. To start, obviously, Blizzard isn't new to this criticism. Overwatch 1's monetization was primarily structured around loot boxes, and while Blizzard didn't invent that concept, they absolutely and undeniably ushered them into their golden age. They were incredibly exploitative and unethical, and preyed on people with poor impulse control, tendencies towards addiction or compulsive spending, and on children who were desperate to not be the only friend in their friend group without the new cosmetics. Their event loot boxes exacerbated that by adding a strict time limit before the skin would be gone, and you would have to wait until either anniversary to get another crack at it or the next year's event. In their first ever event, the Summer Games of 2016, they didn't even allow you to purchase event cosmetics with credits. You had to get them through loot boxes, and it took them an entire year to reduce the issue of duplicates. The July 27th, 2017 patch changed the way loot boxes rewarded items by avoiding duplicates within rarity tiers until a point where you had already unlocked every item within that rarity tier, to avoid situations where you would get like 3 of the same Reaper skin during Junkenstein's Revenge when you just wanted Witch Mercy. Their shift to their current model was, in theory, a step in the right direction. Loot boxes are predatory and should not be a purchasable thing, especially not in a video game marketed at all ages. To be clear, they didn't do this out of like the goodness of their heart or the desire to not exploit people, but to avoid the legislative hurdles that were eventually coming their way. It was only a matter of time before loot boxes eventually got hit with the hammer of the law, and they wanted to get out before that happened. Now, I personally don't hate the Battle Pass model in concept, and I think Overwatch 2's was almost a good one, and we'll get back to that in a second. But it's the shop that really ruins things, and I think everyone is pretty much on the same page with that. In Overwatch 1, you couldn't pay for currency in-game. You received it as part of a pity system when you got duplicates and loot boxes that you could use to buy cosmetics directly from the hero gallery, and it was handed out based on the rarity of the duplicate in question. You'd get 20% of the value of a base item in that rarity tier back as credits. All base cosmetics were available 24/7, while event cosmetics were always purchasable during their respective events, plus during anniversary, with an event cosmetics price being triple the price of a base cosmetic for its first year before dropping down to standard rates in subsequent appearances. In Overwatch 2, without loot boxes, there's no pity system to earn credits to buy cosmetics. The only way to get them without paying money for them is to complete every single weekly challenge, and that will only earn you 60 credits per week. Remember, a 2-month battle pass costs 1,000 credits, and something like the Witch Kiriko bundle costs 2,600. 60 a week is functionally nothing. There's no mechanic for random unlocks at all, so unless it's on the free track of the battle pass, it's out of reach unless you're paying money. Credits are worth roughly 1 American cent apiece, so 2,600 credits is about 26 US dollars, or 35 Canadian dollars. For context, I bought Overwatch 1 at launch for about 40 Canadian dollars. It's bullshit pricing, and there's really just no way around it. You could unlock tons of cosmetics in Overwatch 1 without ever paying a cent, since you got one every level plus extras for endorsements, queuing for certain game modes, especially during events, winning other modes, getting 9 wins in quick play or arcade modes per week, and just other occasional bonuses. For myself, I used to occasionally buy them, but hadn't bought one since 2017's Lunar New Year, and I never had an issue unlocking pretty much every cosmetic in the game outside of the legendaries. It's also important to remember when we're talking about this that Overwatch 2 had a lot more cosmetics to go for it than Overwatch 1 did at launch, like to the extent that it's literally thousands more, thanks to having those 14 extra characters at launch, as well as 6 years worth of event cosmetics built up. The new monetization model is actively worse at allowing you to unlock things while giving you more things to unlock. So with that out of the way, let's get into the proper essay structure of this shit, starting with why is this bad for customers? That might sound kind of obvious. Customers are getting screwed here. There's no two ways about it. Every past Overwatch event had over 100 new cosmetics for the most part, and while most of those were just loot box fillers like player icons, sprays, or voice lines, you could reliably get a handful of really good skins, either legendaries or the occasional good epic. The first Halloween event in 2016 had 4 legendaries, the ongoing Halloween event right now has 2. And you can't buy those original 4 legendaries in the store right now unless they randomly show up for you in the For You section at the bottom on a given day, or might show up in the bundles one week or another. In the past, if you wanted Witch Mercy, you could grind for her. You didn't have to pay, and paying didn't guarantee you'd get her, and admittedly neither did grinding. But now, if you want Witch Kiriko, you have to hand over a pretty substantial amount of money. federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 an hour. In my province of Alberta, Canada, the minimum wage is $15 an hour. For a minimum wage worker in America, you'd have to work 3.5 hours to afford this skin. And for a minimum wage worker in Alberta, it'd be about 2 hours and 20 minutes for it. And remember, we're in the middle of a pretty massive recession right now, and inflation is through the roof. That's a lot of money to ask from people. I mentioned the Battle Pass earlier, and I think it's important to address it here. Personally, I think it's pretty decent value in isolation. I'm not too mad about the pass that I got. $10 for a Battle Pass is kind of the going rate right now, and I'm mostly happy with the cosmetics. Or at least I was. But then, things started to seem a bit sus. The theme of the Battle Pass this season was cyberpunk. From Mythic Genji, to music in the loading screen when it was being shown off, to the ads, to the majority of the cosmetics. That was clearly the intention. However, right away it was obvious that some cosmetics on that pass didn't belong there. The epic skins for Cassidy, Junker Queen, and Winston, and the associated sprays and other cosmetics, were clearly from some sort of wilderness theme. I have no idea where that legendary Pharah skin was taken from, since it seems like kind of an outsider, and the Mercy legendary might fit given the cyberpunk genre's use of Asian cultural influences, but either way, it didn't really stack. And then we started seeing actual cyberpunk skins being offered in the shop, skins that were initially implied to be part of the Battle Pass in ads for the season. This screenshot from an ad for Battle Pass Season 1 shows Kiriko's Hinatori legendary front and center, a skin that was already shown in the trailer as being a Battle Pass unlockable. Included in this shot are Zenyatta Cybermonk, Roadhog Cyberhog, Sojourn Cyber Detective, and the, as of right now, as far as I'm aware, unnamed Widowmaker and Hanzo skins. And you might say, well, that's just you inferring that. Maybe they were always just meant to be part of the bundles. And I'd say, are you sure about that? Because there is a section of the trailer specifically referring to new weekly bundles that include teasers for an Echo skin, a Junkrat skin, and a Lucio skin, before moving on to show more of the content that is freely available, such as Bastion, Mercy, and Junker Queen gameplay and base cosmetics, plus some footage of New Queen Street before moving on to the section with those cyberpunk skins. And crucially, the skins that are being specified in the new weekly bundles section don't include any that fit the cyberpunk theme of the Battle Pass. All of this is meant to imply to a customer that even if not everything in the Battle Pass will be explicitly tied to the theme, everything that is tied to the theme will be included in the Battle Pass. It's the whole not every rectangle is a square, but every square is a rectangle type of thing. It's pretty obvious too that these skins were all meant to be part of the Battle Pass, and we can see which skins replaced them. Cassidy, Junker Queen, Winston, Pharah, and Mercy were not supposed to be in this Battle Pass. It's pretty obvious from just the theme. Sojourn, Widowmaker, Hanzo, Zenyatta, and Roadhog were. And if I had to guess, I'd say that that change was made pretty last minute too. Why else is Forest Ranger Cassidy a level 70 unlock on the Battle Pass? It's objectively a pretty bad skin, even by the standards of epics, and even by Cassidy's other epics, much less compared to the legendaries that are surrounding it, and it doesn't make sense at that position unless it was a last-minute substitute for one of the cyberpunk legendaries that Blizzard decided would make more money in the shop, since nobody is going to spend $10 on that shitty epic skin when it rolled around, and there's no way to randomly unlock them. So, chuck it in the Battle Pass and move the more sellable items into the shop where you can charge 20 bucks a piece for them. This is already incredibly sus behavior and makes it clear that they are trying to gouge their customers, but on top of that, they're engaging in outright illegal behavior with their pricing. Although some of that has been rolled back. In the middle of writing this video, it was announced that anything that was available as a bundle in the shop would also be made available at its full individual price through the Hero Gallery. The reason for the change is that it's illegal to do what they were previously doing, which is to say that you're offering a discount on an item that was never available for its base price. If I offer a candy bar for sale, and it's only ever available at $4 at a 50% discount, that's a scam. I'm clearly only trying to sell it for $2, but I'm making it seem like you're getting a good deal, because it manipulates you into thinking you're getting more value than you are. Discounts are inherently meant to encourage sales, by making you think you're getting better value than you otherwise would. And that's totally fine, if it's actually true. What Blizzard was doing is illegal in a number of countries, including Canada and Australia. We saw this happen with Fallout 76 as well. The fact they made the change at all is pretty clear evidence that pressure can and will force them to adjust their monetization model if that pressure is significant enough, and that includes legal pressure. It also demonstrates the importance of consumer protections in the law. This kind of thing is not illegal in the United States, at least not to the same extent as it is in other countries, and the barriers to litigation are often higher. However, that's not the only potentially gray area illegal issue with their monetization. They're also literally just lying about their discounts on their bundles in a way that's really blatant and really gross. Overwatch establishes the initial price and the discount of their bundles by adding up the base value of generic items in the categories of the items included in the bundle and then applying a discount to that amount. Every legendary skin is priced equally, every epic skin, etc. For example, the Defenders of the Castle bundle includes 4 skins: Coffin Bastion, Dragon Symmetra, Flying Dutchman Sigma, and Gargoyle Winston. A legendary skin typically costs 1900 credits, so the base value for this bundle is 7600 credits, 1900 times 4. They then apply a discount to it, lowering the price of each skin from 1900 to 1100, bringing the total bundle cost to 4400 credits. They then slap a sticker on it saying that this is a 42% discount. This is totally fine. This is accurate. It is a 42% discount on that level. The issue with how this is handled is what happens when you already own one or more of the cosmetics from a bundle. If you, like me, played a lot of Overwatch 1, you probably own some or most of the cosmetics in these bundles unless they're brand new for Overwatch 2. In those cases, Blizzard reduces the price that you pay to account for the already owned items. Bringing it back to that Defenders of the Castle bundle, I already own everything except for Coffin Bastion. Since their bundled price is 4400 for 4 skins, they drop the price down to 1100 for just 1 skin. That's perfectly fine and isn't in itself an issue, like I said before. What is an issue is that they don't adjust the base value that they say you're getting, which they still list as 7600 for that bundle even though the adjusted bundle's value is only 1900, the cost of a single legendary skin. This also affects the advertised percentage discount. Instead of saying that it's a 42% discount, which is what it functionally is a 1900 credit skin that's available for 1100 credits, they advertise it as having a whopping 85% discount, because 1100 credits is 85% less than the original 7600 credit base value. Like, that's just objectively false advertising. There's no two ways around it. This applies to other bundles too. For example, in the Karate bundle, Karate Doomfist is available as the sole remaining locked cosmetic for me for 1441 credits, which it claims is a 50% discount. In the Vampire Hunter bundle, Vampire Hunter Brigida is offered for 1492 credits, which it claims is a 46% discount. All of this is a scam for customers. Blizzard is lying. Its Battle Pass was clearly scraped for content to try and make extra cash through this exploitative shop, and it's relying on false advertising and outright fraudulent behavior by misrepresenting discounts on their items. It's shitty, it needs to change, and honestly, I don't really care how much people beat this dead horse, like I said before. Blizzard is doing a bad thing, and until they stop, drum go dumb. Up until now, we've been exploring this on a micro level. So let's go a bit more macro, and talk about the impact on the industry as a whole. Blizzard clearly has colossal sway over trends in the industry, especially with Overwatch's massive success. The difference here is that they're jumping onto a monetization trend that's already pretty standard, rather than bringing one into the mainstream. Battle passes and in-game shops like this weren't popularized by Overwatch, but by games like Fortnite that adopted this model a long time ago. Dan Olsen, a fellow Albertan, actually made a really good video about the issues with this model that I will link in a card in the top right and in the description that I highly encourage you to watch. TLDR is that Fortnite isn't a game, it's a storefront with a game attached to it. Fortnite's business model is about selling cosmetics and access to that store, not about selling gameplay. Just also happens to have gameplay that a sizable number of people like. Overwatch is in a similar position now, where its gameplay is solid, but its monetization is based around cosmetics, not the game itself. Overwatch has joined the ranks of Fortnite, Apex, and others by becoming a storefront with a game attached. The reason this harms the industry as a whole is that it's solidifying the model while exacerbating it. Blizzard's Battle Pass is, in terms of cosmetics, not terrible value. In isolation, without considering everything that's already been discussed, it's pretty typical, with one notable exception. In most other games with Battle Passes, there's a way to earn your next Battle Pass. If you complete a premium Battle Pass in Fortnite or in Apex, you will earn enough currency to outright buy the next season's Battle Pass if you want to. And that's not the case in Overwatch. There are no credits available through the Battle Pass. In fact, they're only available through completing those weekly challenges. And as discussed, it's a pretty useless amount of credits even before you consider how bugged those challenges can be. I know for myself, I've lost out on a good amount of credits because the weekly challenges just didn't track things like damage dealt or healed or mitigated, and it's really frustrating. However, the bigger issue is that Overwatch's Battle Passes can't be earned. You are paying for one season and you cannot do anything that will change the fact that you will be paying for the next season if you want it. At most, if you don't ever spend any of your credits, you might save up enough to buy the Battle Pass for Season 3 if you finish every single weekly challenge for 4 straight months. The harm that this is doing to the industry is that it's normalizing a worse version of this model, and it wasn't exactly a flawless model to begin with, and it enables every other company to shift further towards it. Remember, loot boxes predated Overwatch 1, but Blizzard's model moved the Overton window on monetization way further in favor of that exploitative loot box model. They didn't even end up with the worst model. In fact, for a long time people praised them for it, saying it was only cosmetic and that it could have been worse. but it did enable more companies to go further and further. Overwatch 2's Battle Pass model does the same thing, only with an already standard monetization model. Whereas companies like EA took Blizzard's loot boxes and pushed the limits when they came out during Overwatch 1's lifetime, Overwatch 2 is the one pushing the limits on battle passes as a concept that were established by these other companies. Its shop in particular is genuinely atrocious. Its battle passes might have good value in isolation, but in comparison are pretty demonstrably poor value and require constant repeated buy-ins rather than rewarding players who play the game. The worst part, however, is normalizing the scarcity of their premium currency. Apex and Fortnite, to use some examples that I'm more familiar with and that I think are common enough that more people are likely to be familiar with them, both charge pretty similar amounts for their battle passes compared to Overwatch. Apex's tokens, Fortnite's V-Bucks, and Overwatch's credits are all each worth roughly the same amount, which is 1 unit per US cent, so it's pretty easy to compare them. If you'd like a more robust breakdown of Battle Pass value, I'm going to link to SirSwag's Battle Pass analysis from a little while back. It is older, so some of the stats aren't fully up to date, but it's still a pretty good analysis and gives you a good baseline. Starting with Apex, a premium Battle Pass costs 950 tokens. If you only use the free Battle Pass, you can earn up to 300 tokens, while owners of the Premium Pass can earn up to 1200. You can also earn Apex Packs, which are Apex's version of loot boxes, as well as crafting materials, which are a separate currency that can be used to buy cosmetics. Apex's Battle Pass seasons are usually 3 months long, and on top of that go up to 100 levels of unlockables. Fortnite's current premium Battle Pass also only costs 950 V-Bucks, and their website actually specifically advertises that a premium Battle Pass owner is able to earn up to 1500 V-Bucks over the course of the season, enough to buy them their next pass. Fortnite Battle Passes similarly run for about 3 months, and have 100 tiers for free players and 200 for premium Battle Pass owners. Overwatch's premium Battle Pass costs 1000 credits. It lasts 2 months, and there is no way to earn any form of currency by completing the Battle Pass, only by completing weekly challenges. Seasons only last 2 months, meaning a shorter time to complete, but also only have 80 real tiers of items as well as 120 prestige tiers that can unlock a handful of battle card titles. Over the course of an 8-week season, you could earn 480 credits. If a season went for 10 weeks, it could be 600. That's purely dependent on completing every single weekly challenge though, and given that they sometimes just don't work, good luck with that. Overwatch's Battle Pass is clearly an attempt to push the envelope and see if they can get away with more than Fortnite or Apex did. You can't earn back your Battle Pass, much less earn more than the value of a Battle Pass to unlock some additional cosmetics. You have less time to complete a season and fewer cosmetics to unlock as a whole. You have to pay for the Premium Pass to be able to immediately unlock new heroes, something that used to be free in Overwatch 1. If you don't want to pay for it, you need to grind to level 55, which takes a long time, especially without the EXP boost that the Premium Pass grants you. This doesn't even get into the shop, which is another instance of Overwatch pushing the limits. Cosmetics are no longer exclusive to events, and are no longer priced based on whether they're new items or not. Apex's loot boxes, while still exploitative like all loot boxes, are also provided fairly frequently for free from leveling up and progressing through the Battle Pass, allowing you to unlock new items semi-frequently on top of the items you can buy with crafting materials or with the premium currency through the store. Fortnite doesn't have a random unlock mechanic, but its battle passes allow you to earn enough currency that you can cover the cost of your next battle pass alongside other cosmetics pretty easily. You can also buy the Fortnite Crew Deal, which costs 16 Canadian dollars a month and comes with some unique cosmetics, 1000 V-Bucks per month, and the premium battle pass. If you already have the battle pass, either because you bought it before buying into the Fortnite Crew or you've had Fortnite Crew subscriptions for multiple months, then you'll just be given the value of it, 950 V-Bucks, to spend instead. When an industry titan like Blizzard shifts the window, the rest of the industry listens. And Blizzard's move to make battle passes and in-game shops even more shitty, exploitative, and low value for customers risks the rest of the industry seeing this as a standard and following suit. If Blizzard is establishing itself as the center point that other battle passes can be built out from, similar to what it did with loot boxes, then things are only going to get worse over the coming years. To kind of close out our 3-part on how this hurts everyone, let's quickly talk about how this is also just a bad decision for Blizzard itself, and potentially reflects some concerning lack of faith that they might have in Overwatch's future. Using some good old economics. Activision Blizzard is a private company operating under a capitalist structuring of the economy, in particular American capitalism, where profit is a more powerful incentive than God himself, and so their primary motivation is to make money. This isn't endorsing or denouncing that approach even, it's just getting the facts on the table. This approach to the cultural industries as a business, and not an art, is summed up nicely in a quote from former Disney CEO Michael Eisner. "We have no obligation to make art. We have no obligation to make history. We have no obligation to make a statement. But to make money, it is often important to make history, to make art, or to make some significant statement. We must always make entertaining movies, and if we make entertaining movies, at times we will reliably make history, art, a statement, or all three." The problem with this sentiment, especially in an industry like gaming, where individual parts of the product can be broken down and sold to you piece by piece, is that making money isn't actually very straightforward. On a microeconomic level, for example, you can break it down into short and long-term revenues, and the factors of supply, demand, price, discriminatory pricing, and more all affects what it means to make money. On a fundamental level, the way you establish the price for a product is to look at the supply and demand functions of a given product. If I want to sell a ball, I need to evaluate the cost to produce a ball at each level of production and the demand for the ball at each price point. The equilibrium price, which is the price that is optimal for everyone involved, is found at the point where the cost of supply and the price for demand are the same. If it costs me $3 per ball to produce 10 balls per week, and I can sell 10 balls for $3 a piece per week, then the equilibrium price for a ball is $3, and I will produce 10 of them per week, and supply will exactly match demand. For our purposes, we're also going to assume that we're factoring in the cost of profit into the cost of supply. Which, to be clear, whenever a company is making a profit off of something, it is a cost to you. Never forget that dynamic. Again, talking real basic microeconomics, there are two kinds of costs for supply: fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are things that don't change regardless of the amount of product supplied, while variable costs are things that increase or decrease based on the quantity involved. If I had to rent a ball making machine that could produce up to 100 balls a week and costs $10 a week to have, then I have a fixed cost of $10 per week. Regardless of whether I produce 0 or 100 balls, so long as I'm renting it, my fixed costs are $10. If my ball requires 1 square meter of material to make, and I can buy 1 meter for $10, 10 meters for $20, or 100 meters for $50, then my variable cost will depend on how many balls I'm making. If I make 1, I have a variable cost of 10 for my manufacturing. If I make 10, I have a variable cost of 20, and if I make 100, I have a variable cost of $50. This is just in terms of total variable cost, not in terms of cost per product. To find the cost of supply, you add those two things together. 1 ball would cost me $20 to make, 10 balls would cost me $30 to make in total, and 100 balls would cost me $60. If we were looking at this in terms of the week in isolation, then it makes the most sense to buy 10 meters worth of material, even if 100 meters might be better value per dollar, because I can't sell more than 10 per week at $3 per ball. If I am exclusively looking at this in terms of a single week, I'm better off spending $30 and making $30 rather than spending $60 and making $30. However, if we're looking at this in the long term, I know I can sell 100 balls over 10 weeks. I have a fixed cost of $10 per week for the machine when I need to rent it, which is rented on a weekly basis, but the balls don't expire, so I can stock up in advance if I wanted to. If I paid for 100 meters of material, then I could rent the machine for a single week, make 100 balls, and then sell them over the next 10 weeks. This would mean that I would have a cost of $60 in my first week and revenue of $30 like we said before, which would be a net loss, but for the next 9 weeks, I would continue generating $30 per week in sales without incurring any additional costs, since I'm not still renting the machine or buying more material. If we keep that short-term approach for 10 weeks, we'd have $300 in revenue and $300 in cost, which is a grand total of $0 in additional profit beyond the cost of profit we already factored in. If we use the long-term approach, however, we would have $300 in revenue, but only $60 in cost, leaving us with a profit of $240. Given that we get so much more profit out of the second scenario, I could also afford to lower the price to sell more balls and make even more money than if I was thinking short-term. However, let's say the ball is a seasonal product, like a jack-o'-lantern ball for Halloween. I can't sell that consistently throughout the year and might not be able to make it go for 10 weeks. But I might also be able to increase the price to account for increased demand. Even if I only sell 10 Halloween balls per week for a single week of the year, if I can boost the price from $3 to $4 to account for that increased demand, I can still make $10 in profit if I think short term, compared to losing $20 if I use that same long-term approach when it didn't apply. If this is sounding confusing to you, don't worry, same, it does confuse me as well. This is why I swapped my degree from finance to communications. But if you're wondering why this matters, we need to look at Blizzard's model. For Blizzard, there's functionally no variable costs on their items. Their costs don't increase or decrease whether 10, 100, or 1,000 people buy a cosmetic through the shop. This means that making a profit is actually a lot more straightforward. A legendary skin is priced at $20 Canadian per skin, so if they want to make a profit on one, they just need to sell however many copies of the skin are necessary to make more than their fixed cost on the artists who made it. Let's say that it cost Blizzard $100,000 to produce Witch Kiriko after factoring in all the game devs, designers, programmers, everybody who worked on that skin from concept to execution. To cover their costs for that skin, they would need to sell 5,000 copies of it, and starting at the 5,000 in first sale, they're making pure profit. If there are 50,000 people willing to pay $20 Canadian for that Kiriko skin, that's $1 million in revenue against $100,000 in costs, meaning Blizzard would make $900,000 off of Witch Kiriko just as a base skin. These are all purely hypothetical numbers. To be clear, don't take it as gospel, we're just trying to come up with some examples here. The question for Blizzard is, does this model make money? And is that in the short term or the long term? And the answer to those two questions are yes and short term, respectively. A lot of concepts in micro and macroeconomics were developed at a point in time when this kind of digital product wasn't really a thing in the same way. That's important to note because digital products like Overwatch skins are unique compared to a typical product because their variable costs are so functionally non-existent, so they really only need to balance against their fixed costs. Given the high demand for Overwatch cosmetics and the colossal inventory of existing cosmetics being sold though, they don't really need to worry about whether or not an individual skin will cover its costs, only their maximum profit. And I would argue that short term, this model will make money, but long term, not really, or at least not as much as they could. The high prices and lack of available currency in the game both serve to dramatically reduce demand, and unless one of those factors change, demand is going to keep decreasing over time. At $20 minimum Canadian per legendary skin, it's too expensive for most people to buy in for every event, especially on top of the battle pass, and the value is too low. $20 for a single skin for a minimum wage worker, as already discussed, can be several hours of their labor. And that really just isn't worth it when we're in the economic crisis that we are, with inflation, with cost of living out of control. Again, short term, this might make them money, but long term, it's not a sustainable model. It's going to see revenues decrease. People might pay for Witch Kiriko because this is the first event, but once they have her, are they going to pay another $20 for Executioner Junker Queen in this event? What about another $20 for a Winter Wonderland skin for Kiriko that might come out in a little bit? It was one thing when skins didn't cost straight up cash, but now people are having to invest real dollars in specific skins. People's reaction is going to be, this new skin is nice, but I already paid $20 for this other skin a couple months ago and I want to get my money's worth out of it, so maybe I'll just pick up the new one later. On top of that, Blizzard's current model disincentivizes people to really engage with the shop. You don't earn enough to buy anything through gameplay, as discussed, so everyone knows that you're only going to the shop to either window shop, but not spend any money, or to spend real money on credits. If your goal is to make money as a company, you want people to be in the habit of entering the shop with the intention of buying things. Either with currency they earned or paid for, it's not that important, you just need to build the habit. Right now, people are encouraged to hoard their currency, and you don't make money off of that behavior if you're Blizzard. I would argue that demand for Overwatch cosmetics would increase at a higher rate than price would decrease. This is a concept called price elasticity of demand, which is a measure of whether demand increases at a faster or lower rate than price decreases. If demand increases by 50% when prices decrease by 50%, then it has perfect price elasticity of demand, because price and demand shift at the same time. If demand doesn't shift when prices do, then it's price inelastic. People will pay regardless of the price because it's a necessity for the most part. If demand increases by 25% when prices decrease by 50%, then it has a low price elasticity of demand, because demand changes at a slower rate than the price. If demand increases by 50% when prices decrease by 25%, then it means that the product has high price elasticity of demand, because demand changes faster than price does. Overwatch cosmetics fall under the category of luxury items in economic terms, and are absolutely in that last category of high price elasticity of demand. On top of that, again, they have functionally no variable costs, so there's really no penalty for trying to sell as many as possible. Again, if I were trying to sell a ball, eventually, no matter how efficient my system is, there's going to be a point where I can't sell the ball for less. When it comes to Overwatch skins, that level is really, really low. Because of this, when it comes to price, they should want it to be as low as possible without becoming so low that it does start making less profit than it would at a higher price. If an Overwatch skin could sell 1,000 copies at $20, but 100,000 copies at $2, or 1,000,000 at 2 cents, then $2 would be the best price because it makes the most money. And at this point, I'm going to ask you as a customer to think about this for yourself. If legendary skins in Overwatch 2 cost 500 credits, let's say, instead of 1,900, how would that influence your purchasing decisions? What if it was 1,000? If you were someone who bought one cosmetic for 1,900 credits, would you buy 2 for 1,000? Or about 4 for 500? If you aren't buying cosmetics at their current prices, would that change if legendaries were sitting at a lower price, like 1,000 or even 500 credits? What if you were able to earn credits through gameplay, say 10 credits per battle pass level? Would that maybe incentivize you to start visiting the shop more? Would you be more likely to drop a few bucks here or there if you already almost had enough for cosmetics you really wanted, but you knew they were going away soon? I can't answer this for everyone, but I know for myself I'd absolutely have bought some cosmetics if they were $5 in this event. To me, that's a fair price for the Witch Kiriko legendary, and honestly, at those kind of rates, I probably would have bought a couple extra cosmetics for the other new heroes as well, just to have something else to use for them in games beyond the plain skins or the battle pass skins. If Blizzard could convert me from a customer who spends $10 on a battle pass to someone who spends $10 on the battle pass and $10 on cosmetics, they'd be making more money off of me and any other customer who has a similar spending trajectory to me. And I would argue that's a lot closer to the average Overwatch 2 player than the kind of person who will consistently spend $20 or more on cosmetics on a consistent basis. Blizzard's hard focused on short-term profitability in Overwatch 2 that relies a bit heavily on whales, which is a dehumanizing term for people who spend a lot of money and typically cover the cost for everyone else in a game like this. But it is going to sabotage itself in the long term. However, it's not like they don't want to make money. So the question is, why would they do that? The first option here is that this is a short-term squeeze to make money out of the game, and that they're going to let up in either the second or at least third Battle Pass season to bring the prices to more normal or at least more tolerable levels. This is kind of what happened in Overwatch 1, where the first event only allowed event cosmetics to be unlocked through loot boxes. That was changed for the second event after outcry from the community, and I wouldn't be shocked if Blizzard does the same thing here. However, I don't really think that's their motivation overall. Overwatch 1 was a new game for a new IP with a relatively non-industry standard monetization model at the time. You could argue that to some extent they misjudged things based on a lack of evidence for that game, and did want to capitalize on that immediate hype. Overwatch 1 was a big deal, and those first few months probably made them an absolute fortune. Overwatch 2, on the other hand, is effectively just an update for a 6-year-old game with an already industry standard monetization model. They know what does and doesn't work, and they chose to do this anyways. I think the real answer here is that Blizzard doesn't have faith in Overwatch 2's longevity. Some executives somewhere in the company are worried that this game will not hold on the way that other games with similar free-to-play models like Fortnite or Apex have. Both of those games continue making money to this day, even while allowing players to earn battle passes and currency because people keep playing them and will inevitably spend more money on them. That's why the Watchpoint pack didn't come with 3 seasons of the Battle Pass, it came with 1 season and 2,000 credits to buy the next 2 season passes. They're hoping you'll burn your 2,000 credits before those seasons happen and you're going to be forced to pay for them if you want to participate. The monetization structure of Overwatch 2 is an admission of fear. It's a smash and grab in the short term because they aren't confident that this game has the legs to make it to the long term. The Watchpoint pack structure even tells us the lifetime they're thinking the game might have, 8 to 10 months, which is the amount of battle passes you can get out of it if you never buy another cosmetic, never buy any credits, buy the Watchpoint pack, and complete every single weekly challenge. By that point, they're presumably hoping that the release of Overwatch's PvE mode will be enough to carry the game forward and keep it profitable. But they don't think the multiplayer has legs by itself to make it worth planning further ahead for it than that 1 year-ish range. Personally, if I were a major Overwatch content creator or pro, I would be legitimately worried by their monetization and pushing them to try and adjust it to something that is more sustainable and long-term. Not because I wouldn't be able to afford it as a major creator or whatever, but because it signals that Blizzard's structuring its monetization model around not being committed to Overwatch 2's long-term longevity. And look, maybe this isn't the final strategy. Maybe they're doing their smash and grab for the first season and first event because they know this is when hype is highest and they'll be able to get away with it more. And then they're just going to adjust for those future seasons once the hype goes back to a more typical level for this game. We're going to know soon. The next season begins in a month, and Winter Wonderland will probably launch a little bit after. Depending on timing, the next season might actually include 2 events, with Lunar New Year happening at the same time. If the model does not fundamentally change by the start of Season 3, meaning that they've run 2 seasons and 2 to 3 events under their current model, I think it's time to seriously consider whether Activision Blizzard is committed to Overwatch as a long-term live service model. And on that cheerful, optimistic note, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a long video and maybe went into some more pedantic areas, and I know it's a topic people have beaten to absolute death. So I wanted to go a bit more in depth about why I think this is happening and why I think this monetization model is shitty even before you consider what it says about Blizzard's lack of commitment to this game long term. If you've enjoyed the video, consider subscribing for more content. I've just recently finished a video about Blizzard's failure to understand how to balance Sombra with the recent nerfs, which should be on the screen in a second, and if you'd like to see some of my comp matches, those should be there as well. I also stream on Twitch on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 7 to 10 PM, and I'd love it if you'd stop by and say hi. See you soon.